Rural Americans deserve access to the best of what our nation has to offer, especially health care. Across every state and every community, America's rural hospitals are the first line of defense, protecting our families, neighbors, and loved ones. No matter where you live, hospital care doesn't clock out. They're there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Each year, America's over 5,000 hospitals care for millions of patients, providing 24/7 emergency care, delivering babies, cancer treatments, and other life-saving care that patients rely on. Behind every one of those patients are doctors, nurses, and caregivers working tirelessly to keep people healthy and safe. Hospitals are our community's lifelines. They employ our neighbors and keep our families healthy. But now, some in Congress are threatening access to care. Tell Congress, protect patient care to keep America strong. Don't cut rural health care.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi. Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
So, the big news, obviously, was the Supreme Court decision overruling President Trump on the use of tariffs from a law known as IEEPA, International Economic Emergency Policy, IEEPA. But I'll tell you, if you think tariffs came to an end with yesterday's Supreme Court decision, think again. Not going to happen. If you think President Trump's whole reciprocal trade policy came to an end with the Supreme's decision, think again. And one more, if you think Justice Brett Kavanaugh's dissent was the right idea, you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but it just seems to me that the 6-3 ruling by the Supremes against Trump's authority to levy tariffs, this is just a technical issue. That's all it is, a technical issue. And that's why it's not going to stop him, and he shouldn't be stopped, because he's pushing for reciprocity. What does that mean? A level playing field. That means if Europe has high tariff barriers or non-tariff barriers, regulations, or government subsidies, if they continue to stop us from selling to them, exporting to them, we can't take that. We have to fight back. That's what Trump's been trying to do. He started in the first term. I was on his trade policy committee, among other duties, and we did a lot of work with China, some with South Korea. Anyway, his reciprocity plan, including tariffs, has opened up a lot of markets for American businesses to sell in Europe, in Asia, Japan, South Korea. Very important. He's correct. Because in the past, we were stopped from selling. And that wound up shutting down a lot of our industries in the Midwest and elsewhere. Autos, steel, you name it. So that had stopped. Unfair trading practices. Trump's first guy to really go after it, including China, which does not deserve, China does never deserved its World Trade Organization, WTO, nomenclature or clause that they're a normal trading country and still an undeveloped country, so they can set high tariffs and high barriers. They never deserved that. It should have been taken away years ago. Anyway, if the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, that's IEEPA, of 1977, can be used, now here's the key point, listen to this, can be used by presidents to regulate trade, including the use of an embargo, then why would it rule out tariffs? He has the power, based on that law, to regulate trade, including an embargo. But not tariffs? Listen, tariffs are a lot less than a full-throated embargo. Embargo means no trade at all. Tariffs mean you'd have a penalty of 10 or 15%. The way this thing reads, let's see. IEEPA authorizes the president to, quote, investigate, block, regulate, direct, and compel, nullify, void, prevent, or prohibit economic transactions. So, there's one word missing, tariffs. This thing should be amended. But if he has all those other powers, surely he has the power to tariff. Now, I'll concede that Chief Justice Roberts did offer a good constitutionalist argument when he voted for the 6-3 to stop the tariffs. His point is only Congress has the power to tax, and tariffs are a tax. Therefore, he ruled out Mr. Trump's tariff because Congress had not explicitly stated and voted on the word tariffs. Well, okay. But Congress has given the chief executive latitude in so many other areas to impose tariffs. That's the point. And President Trump will use them. He'll use Section 122 of the Trade Act of 1974, which allows him to levy up to 15% tariffs for 150 days. And he invoked that yesterday. He put that in yesterday at 10%, not 15, 10 for 150 days. He has that authority, and he's going ahead and doing it. All these newspaper headlines that he's lost his authority for tariffs are just wrong. He has other tools. He has other means. And he's using them. And the point is that I'm making, and it's Kavanaugh's point. I'm not a lawyer, but gosh. If he can do that, but they won't let him impose tariffs under IEEPA, it just seems like a very technical argument, full of sound and fury, but signifying absolutely nothing. He has the authority to tariff. It's just that one word wasn't in IEEPA. Everything else, he has all these other executive authorities. So that's why I say this is a technical issue, and it'll be corrected. Now, you have also, under the 1974 Trade Act, Trump has the option to use something called Section 301, which is based on unfair trading practices, including currency manipulation. That gives him authority to tariff. You have to go through a process, 4 or 5 months, to investigate, get public comment. In other words, it takes longer. But he has that authority. We used it, 301, in the trade deals with China in the first term. Just takes a bit longer. And then there's something else called Section 232, which is the ability to use tariffs to deal with national security. All right, 232 came under the Trade Expansion Act of 1962, John F. Kennedy, president. The Section 122 and 201 and 301 that I mentioned, that's the Trade Act of 1974 under Nixon. And there's one more that could be used. Under the Trade Act of 1930, the famous Smoot-Hawley Trade Act, which was a bad bill, there's something called Section 338 that the president can also use. In every case, he has the power to tariff. In every case. So this is such baloney that under IEPA he can't tariff. The executive has that authority. Only thing missing from IEPA was the word tariff. Everything else there, embargoes, regulations. I mean, come on. Let's see. Trump yesterday said, I'll quote him. He said, the good news is that there are methods, practices, statutes, and authorities as recognized by the entire court in this terrible decision, and also recognized by Congress, which they refer to, that are even stronger than the IEPA tariffs available to me as President of the United States. So he's going to use all these other tools. So when I see the headlines from every newspaper gleefully saying Trump loses on tariffs, they're missing the point. Of course they are, because the left-wing media doesn't want him, doesn't want to help him ever. But they're wrong. This is just a tiny little bump on his reciprocal trade policy to strengthen the United States and develop a level playing field. Let me just pause for a second. Reciprocity means everybody should have the same tariff rate, which hopefully is low. They should have the same non-tariff regulations, which hopefully are eliminated, and they should have the same government subsidies for whatever, cars, planes. Hopefully they'd be eliminated. Reciprocity, which Trump, he's really a free trader. He wants to bring down the barriers. People just do not understand that. I know him so well. I mean, we just talked about it. I sat with him and interviewed him, 2 weeks ago. And we talked about it some more. He believes in free trade, but it has to be fair. It has to be equal. It has to be reciprocal. If your tariff is 40% and our tariff is 2%, that is not reciprocity. Reciprocity is we both have, let's say, 2% or 5% or even 0. But let's say 5%. We both should have that. And we both should have the same regulations. So that's his battle. He's trying to, and he's succeeded in opening up a lot of markets already, particularly in Southeast Asia, including Japan. Good deals. And I think the potential for a good deal with the European Union, although it's still a work in progress. But he is lowering barriers. Meanwhile, he's helping American businesses here. A level playing field will help us. If the tariffs are level, then our ingenuity and workmanship and productivity will win out. We have low taxes here. We have low regulatory burdens. And, of course, our energy costs are low. So that's the whole issue of reciprocity. Now, there's another point that Mr. Trump frequently uses tariff negotiations as a means of conducting foreign diplomacy, foreign policy. All right, his recent deal with India reduced the tariff to 18% from 50%, provided that they stop buying Russian oil. Right? India's been a rogue state. They're not really our friends. They're the second biggest buyer of Russian oil. The biggest one is China, our enemy. But Trump negotiated that. So it's a perfect example of his hand-in-glove interaction of tariffs and diplomacy, all right, of economic policy and foreign policy. It's very important. And why the Supreme Court would want to interfere with that is beyond me. It's just part of the terrible decision. Now, last point, Supremes didn't even mention the issue of tariff revenues. Oh, my God. I don't know how much it is exactly. 150 billion, maybe 200 billion. Let me mention it. The Treasury Department can send it. They can return those revenues. No big deal. The Bureau of Fiscal Services can do it. But the Supreme Court didn't say a word about it. So it's going to be very complicated. It's going to be a real pain in the neck. There'll probably be lawsuits and lower courts and so forth and so on. But look, Trump is fighting for trade reciprocity, to level the playing field, to rejuvenate the American economy and attract investment money into this country from all over the world, and he's succeeding. And I'll tell you this Supreme Court decision is not going to stop him. It's not going to stand in the way. Trust me on this. This is just the beginning of his campaign for reciprocal tariffs and also for a golden age for the whole American economy. Supremes will not stop him.
The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.